Welcome to Citizen Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgy kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And if you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description, as well as the link to our socials and our good friends at Dice Legion. Use the promo code Sinister, get 10% off all of your purchases. With all that out of the way, we're going to jump into this week's video. We're talking about centaurs. So the centaur is a mythical beast that was half man, half horse, and they've been in like fantasy for a long period of time. Sometimes they were horrible, evil creatures. Sometimes they weren't, and more like druids or forest-like entities. In D&D, they are fey creatures, so they can be a little bit of both alignments. They can be good, they can be evil, they can kind of be all over the place. They can be more attuned to nature and their own survival and being part of their own groups, or they can be kind of fey, psychotic, crazy people, because fey kind of go all over the place with stuff like that. But centaurs usually are much more grounded than being kind of crazy. They do have a unique build because they're half man, half horse, so it is an interesting concept. And you have to really understand that a lot of people would have never seen a centaur normally. On top of that, it's such a rare species that is played in the game that you'll probably go your entire career never seeing one. Centaurs are surprisingly a medium-sized creature, though they are 6 to 7 feet tall on average, because obviously they're, it's a human torso and stomach on top of a horse body. But you are counted as a medium-sized creature. You are not a humanoid, you are fey, so anything that targets a humanoid does not target you. It has to say it targets creatures or fey for it to attack you, so keep in mind when you get hit with spells and things like that. You have a walking speed of 40 feet because you're obviously quicker because you are a half horse, and you do get a couple of really cool abilities that are unique to the centaur. So you get a hooves ability. So your hooves are natural melee weapons, which you can use to make unarmed strikes, and if you hit with them, you deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength modifier, instead of the bludgeoning damage normal for an unarmed strike. This is something that you do have as an option. It is something to keep note of. Unless you're being a monk, or you're doing something specific, you probably won't be using this too often unless you're using your charge ability. Now, your charge ability states that if you move at least 30 feet straight toward a target and then hit it with a melee weapon attack on the same turn, you can immediately follow that attack with a bonus action, making one attack against the target with your hooves. So right off the bat, that's a quick 1d4 plus strength if you hit while charging. If you're charging towards someone, I imagine you're probably either using strength weapons or dexterity weapons, and you're built for combat. Like you have high health, or you have high AC, or you have something preparing you to be able to be that close to an enemy, which kind of sets a good idea behind the centaur, because in fantasy you always see them with bows and arrows, or spears. So I can see a lot of pikes and halberds and stuff like that being used. And then usually, since they're strength weapons, maybe this will work really well with, say, a barbarian, where you can use your rage bonus damage on top of everything else. So it works out pretty effectively. Until you end up having a magical weapon and you're using something like a polearm master, you're not really going to be using a lot of the bonus actions, so it does work out that you have this, especially when you're charging into something. And it feels dramatic, and it's a great way to get an extra attack in. One of the final abilities you get is Survivor. It gives you proficiency in one of the following skills: animal handling, medicine, nature, or survival. All those things are very thematic with the centaur. Obviously, nature being part of the world that they generally inhabit. Survival because they live in the wilderness. Animal handling because they are part animal, and fey should really have a strong forest connection to animals. And medicine because some ancient centaurs were I believe in Greek mythology, were a big part of medicine. Like that symbol for medicine, I think, comes from a centaur staff. There's a lot of history behind it, so it kind of really makes sense a lot thematically. Your final ability is Equine Build. You count as one size larger when determining your carrying capacity and the weight you can push or drag. In addition, any climb that requires hands and feet is especially difficult for you because you have equine legs. When you make such a climb, each foot of movement costs you 4 extra feet instead of the normal 1 extra foot. Obviously, it makes sense because you're a horse person. You can obviously carry more and push and drag or whatever, and you can also have extreme difficulty being a horse trying to climb a building, a mountain, anything like that, which is just interesting. I love the idea of a thief rogue being able to climb and like squeeze into like a window or something as a horse. It's just a funny idea that I keep thinking about when I think of centaurs, but it makes sense. A lot of this really kind of fits very, very well in the theory and the idea behind what a centaur is. And I think they did a good thing pulling the fantasy and bringing it into the game and keeping a lot of its traits in what you learn from the world around it and the different histories and different cultures that have it, and making it feel very right. Like it was just done and put together very well. All right, so let's talk about it. Can you ride a centaur? Based on the way the rules work, if you're a smaller race like gnomes or halflings or anything of those sort, you will be able to ride a centaur without any issue. More importantly, centaurs can ride horses because technically, based on the rules, a horse is a large creature, a centaur is a medium-sized creature, and you need to be one size smaller than whatever it is you're trying to ride. So yes, you should definitely get a mount if you're a centaur. So the major things that I think are really hurting people wanting to be a centaur is, well, really it's the lack of dark vision. That's a big part of it. Plus, it's a very unique kind of a creature that exists within the world of D&D and within every kind of fantasy concept. It is something that you have to really, really consider. It's a little bit of a funny concept. It's a shame, though, that you don't really see a lot of them because there's nothing really bad about them. If you don't have dark vision, it becomes a big problem for a lot of players. Or that really turns people off from picking certain classes or certain species, rather. But I mean, there's a place for them. Mystic Odyssey of Theroes is really built around that Greek mythology where centaurs are very prevalent. Anything that's dealing with forest and nature or anything we're going to be a lot in wilderness, centaurs really make a lot of sense, and they can really be impactful there. Again, they kind of lean towards strength builds. When they originally created this species, their stat increases was 2 strength and 1 wisdom. So obviously, there was a lot of classes that would prefer, that would sync really well with that. And I like the idea of using a pike or a halberd, running in and then bashing someone with my hooves. But again, it comes down to what you want to build with it. And I think there's a lot of great centaur characters out there. I just think it's a shame that it's very rare that you see any. With all that said and done, we're going to bring this video to a close. If you've made it all the way through to the end, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And a big thank you to our good friends at Dice Legion. Thank you so much for giving us the ability to help our friends out with a 10% discount on all your purchases. That discount promo code is Sinister. Definitely put that in so that we can get that sweet, sweet reward. And without further ado, thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.